Welcome to the Career Decision Making Workshop. You are likely here to learn more about what types of occupations might be suited to your interests, skills, and experience. The better thought out that your plan is when making a career decision, the more able you are to move forward confidently towards a satisfying career that's in demand in our labor market. Career decision making can be useful to a variety of people, including those who are interested in pursuing training and educational programs, those who are deciding which occupational field to enter, individuals who are exploring different paid and volunteer opportunities, those considering a career change, and those who may be interested in starting a small business. I want to start by giving some information on the services provided by Second Chance. For those who don't know, we have 3 offices in Wellington County. 2 are in Guelph and 1 is in Fergus. We are also able to meet with individuals in Mount Forest, Elora, Erin, Rockwood, Harriston, Clifford, and Palmerston. We provide a multitude of services relating to job searching, including resume and cover letter assistance, interview skills, exploring training opportunities, and youth programs, among others. Please contact us for more information. Today's agenda includes discussing 3 different types of career changes and the steps you can take to reach career success. After that, we will discuss different assessment tools, followed by completing an assessment yourself called career cruising. This is valuable as knowing what is important to you, what you enjoy, and what you do well will make it easier for you to make a career decision. After completing this assessment, we will review labor market information, including how to research occupations and conduct informational interviews. Please write down any questions you have during the workshop so you can discuss them with your employment counselor. There are a variety of ways to make a career change, and some are easier than others. The first one is when you change your field of work but not your occupation. For example, an administrative assistant who previously worked in healthcare could use those skills in a different field, such as at a law firm. You could also decide to change your occupation title but not your field. Using the same administrative assistant example, you could stay working in healthcare but move to a different position like payroll administrator or a personal support worker. Third way to make a career change is to change both your occupation title and your field. In this case, the job seeker is making 2 changes. You can see how this can make for the most difficult career change. This can take longer as it is often more of a 2-step process that could include needing additional education or perhaps gaining some volunteer experience. This can also mean taking a salary cut if you have to start in a lower level position than what you are used to. As you can see, there are a lot of things to consider when making this kind of change. The process of career decision making isn't linear, so you may find yourself working through the steps simultaneously or completing one or more steps at a later date. Ultimately, the more information you have, the easier it will be to make decisions on how to move forward. Often, individuals have a plan on how they want to proceed with career change, and upon moving forward, they find they don't like everything about the new position or field that they have chosen. This could include the hours of work not being suitable, the wage being too low, or it is simply not what they expected. In this cases, job seekers may want to reevaluate and start again. This slide explains the different steps leading to career success. It is important to remember that job seekers often go up a few steps and then go back down and start again, so don't be discouraged if this happens to you. It just means you've done some research and decided to change directions. This workshop mainly focuses on level 1 on this chart. Shortly, you will complete career cruising, which is part of the self-assessment process and should give you some more ideas to explore. Self-assessment is one of the most important steps when choosing an occupation, education, or training program, when planning your career, and when starting a job search. As a result of the self-assessment stage, you will learn to more effectively communicate your interests, skills, achievements, and values to an employer, which is critical to a successful job search. Some benefits of self-assessment include analyzing your strengths and weaknesses and understand your style of working and your workplace preferences. While doing self-assessments, try to keep some of the following in mind. What areas of study and work excite you the most? Do you typically get bored of doing the same tasks over and over for a longer period of time, or do you prefer that over continuously changing tasks? Are there any specific tasks that you look forward to doing again and again? What style of work are you comfortable doing? Do you prefer to be indoors or outdoors most of the time? After finishing the self-assessment portion, you would move on to completing some research. This can include conducting informational interviews, completing a job shadow in a field or position of interest, and reviewing career trends. Sometimes, once completing the research phase, job seekers decide to move back down to self-assessment as they no longer feel comfortable with their previous decision. This is very common as it can be difficult to really know what an occupation and work environment are like without direct experience. Step number 3 is decision making. Typically, this includes setting goals and objectives. You will need to consider if education is required, how long it will take, what the cost is, etc. You will also need to consider what position you will be starting at. If you are switching fields or occupations, it's possible you have to start in an entry-level position with a lower wage. Being aware of all of these factors will make decision making easier. Step number 4 is networking and building contacts. This phase involves many aspects of job searching, including creating resumes and cover letters. The research you have already done will allow you to target these effectively to different positions and employers. This step also involves applying for positions and preparing for interviews. Part of your job searching will include networking and building your contacts. This can be done a variety of ways, including using LinkedIn and cold calling. Benefits of networking include getting fresh ideas, learning about job opportunities, building your confidence, and getting career advice and support. Step number 5 is work. At this point, you have received and possibly accepted a work offer. Step number 6 is life and work planning. This is the point where you evaluate where you are with your new position. You may want to set new goals at this point or may be content with where you are. Just a reminder again that it's common to move back down a few steps while completing this process.
The first activity is helping you identify your core values. Values are words that describe the things that are most important to you. They are the things that both your heart and mind says important to you. Our values are what make us unique. Our values should inform our goals. Compassion, for example, is a value. A goal based on that value might be counseling or nursing. When you define your values, it's like having an internal validation system. When you know your values, you know what to say yes or no to. It allows you to become more confident and you don't struggle so much when making a decision, especially career-related decisions. An easy way to define your values is by reflecting a peak moment in your life. Recall a moment in your life where you felt that life couldn't get any better and everything felt aligned, a time when you felt joy. Please note this does not need to be an employment-related example. The example I like to share is about my neighbor whose 8-year-old son really wanted a treehouse. He decided to buy him a book for Christmas that was filled with lots of different treehouse designs and blueprints. And together that winter, they spent time designing a custom treehouse that filled all of his son's dreams and wishes. In the spring, they then built that treehouse together in their backyard. Some of the values that can be reflected back from the example then are family, creativity, and cooperation. Now it's your turn. Take some time to recall a peak moment in your life. There are 2 options to completing the values exercise. The first option is calling a friend or family member and describe your peak moment to them in detail for 2 to 3 minutes. Ask them to only listen. They are not to interrupt or ask any questions while you're speaking. While they are listening, they can take notes, including any ideas about which values may be reflected in your story. When you are done describing your peak moment, have them reflect back the values they thought they heard. You can refer to the values sheet, but start without it. You may identify values that aren't included on the values list, and that's fine. The second option is to recall your peak moment in detail and spend time reliving that experience. Write down a list of values and then refer to the values list and identify any other values that relate to your peak moment. Remember, knowing what is important to you, your values, along with your skills and your interests, will make it easier for you to make a career decision.
Now it's time to visit www.careercruising.com. With Career Cruising's My Plan tool, you can create your own online portfolio to keep track of your career development activities and develop a career plan. The My Plan tool also contains a resume builder that allows you to produce a customized resume using the information you have stored in My Plan, as well as any additional information you choose to add. Now it's time to create your account. Simply fill in the sign-in information with username Second Chance and password Employment. Once you're signed in, click Log in to My Plan. From the drop-down menu, select Create My Plan. Fill in the required information on the form that appears and click Create My Plan. You'll receive an email from Career Cruising with a link to follow that will direct you back to the home page. Now you can input your own customized username and password that you've created and log in to My Plan. Once logged into your own personal plan, time to check out the Assessment tab at the top and try the Matchmaker quiz. The Matchmaker quiz is an interest quiz designed to flush out possible job titles to explore based on where your interests lie for work. Hint, it's important to answer the questions in the context of what you'd like to do at work. There are 3 stages of questions, totaling 116 questions. Your progress will be saved at each stage in your portfolio section. When you're finished with the Matchmaker quiz, you'll have a list of potential job titles based on the results of your interest. These job titles will all be links to more information about that job, so go ahead, explore some. Here's your chance to make a list of occupations to explore and evaluate your options. This is a great list to share with your employment counselor. After you've explored some of the career titles, go back to the Assessments tab and complete the Skills section and the How You Learn assessments. These will provide you with valuable insight as you're planning a new career.
The next piece that we're going to look at is labor market information. Although labor market information can be confusing and overwhelming, it allows us to make informed decisions. It allows us to look at what careers have good futures, what careers are in demand, and what careers are best for me. Through doing labor market research, it allows us to look at what skills and requirements jobs have, which training, education, or certifications are needed. It allows us to look at what are the prospects short-term and long-term, and it allows us to look at trends. Is that job going to be here for a long time? As well, it allows us to see what are the wages, a low entry-level wage, a median wage, and a high wage, and where to find the employers that are hiring. When conducting labor market research, there are some questions you should consider. What are the credentials of the job? Is there on-the-job training or industry-specific certifications? Do you require post-secondary education, college, university, or apprenticeship? How many hours of apprenticeship must you complete before being a registered journey person? Is this a regulated occupation? Are you going to be required to do lifelong learning to keep your knowledge current? Or are there annual requirements for education? Time. What are the hours of the job? Is this a Monday to Friday 9 to 5? Is there shift work involved? Days, afternoons, nights, continentals, or rotating shifts? Are you going to be required to work evenings, weekends, or on call? Are you going to be required to work overtime? Or is the option to work overtime available? Think about your household makeup. Do you have daycare that will cover these shifts? Money. What is the starting wage? Is it hourly or is it salary? Will you be receiving performance bonuses, profit sharing, or other benefits? What are the physical requirements? Is there lifting, bending, twisting, turning? Are you going to be required to climb ladders, to work in confined spaces, to work at heights? Are there industry certifications required for this job? Transportation. Do you require a valid license and a vehicle to get to the job? Will the employer accept a G2 or do they require a G license? Are you going to be required to drive the company vehicle? And if so, do you have to have a clean driver's abstract? Foresight. Is this a short-term or a long-term goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? How do you see yourself advancing within the industry? There are a variety of websites that you can use to conduct labor market research. For this example, we're going to use the Canada Job Bank, and we're going to explore an occupation. For this demonstration, we're going to explore medical administrative assistant, not code 1243, and we're going to explore Guelph, Ontario. This will cover the area, which is Kitchener, Waterloo, Barrie, and area. When you search an occupation, the first page you will see is the summary page. Here you will get a description of the job, the labor market prospects, the educational or training requirements, actual job postings, the wages, and the skill requirements. You will be able to navigate through each of these tabs across the top of your screen. On the job description page, you will see the job duties, job titles, and related occupations. This gives you an opportunity to see what duties are required on the job and match your transferable skills to the employer's requirements. The job titles allows you to see, with the training and education, different types of titles that you may qualify for. And then related occupations are those where transferable skills can qualify you for other job titles. The next piece that we look at are the wages. These wages are listed for the region, so this one being Kitchener, Waterloo, Barrie region, for Ontario, and for Canada. This allows you to see the low wage, which is most likely entry level, the median wage, which are for those that have been in the industry for some time or they're meeting certain educational training requirements, and then the high wage for those that have been in the industry for quite some time and have all the education and training required. If you click on Ontario, it allows us to expand region by region so that we can compare the low, median, and high wages throughout the province. If you are considering working in a different region, you'll need to take into consideration two things. One, commuting, or two, relocation. If you're considering commuting, there are factors that are involved that you'll have to take into consideration. These include fuel costs, insurance costs, vehicle maintenance, as well as just the wear and tear on your vehicle. You may also incur parking fees. If you're considering relocation, then you'll want to look at what is the cost of living in that area: rent, utilities, food, entertainment. When making this comparison, statistically, we usually look at about $2 higher per hour if you're going to commute an hour or more. The next piece that we look at are the job prospects. Here we have the opportunity to look regional, provincial, or Canada-wide. When looking at local job prospects, in this demonstration, we see FAIR, 2 stars. This is an outlook over the next 3 years. Here's where a lot of statistical information is presented, and this is where you may become overwhelmed with information. If you read through this information, hopefully it will give you a clearer picture of what to expect. The way that the Service Canada Job Bank rates the prospects for a potential position is either 0 stars, which means there's no information available, 1 star is poor, 2 stars, fair, 3 stars, good. It will let you know if they project an incline or a decline in job opportunities. As well, it allows you to know approximately how many people work in this occupation and which type of industry they fall under. The next tab that we look at is jobs. These are jobs that are listed on the Canadian Job Bank. Here we see Canada, Ontario, and then region to region how many jobs are available. You can view actual postings by real employers. Here you're able to compare jobs, not only to look at wages, but also requirements, skills, and benefits of the job. This may help in your decision making as far as knowing what education and training to take and certifications that are going to make you competitive within the industry. Under the requirement tabs, what we'll see here is employment requirements. This is what is typically required by employers in order to meet the qualifications for the job. So in this example, completion of secondary school is usually required, and completion of a 1 or 2 year college program or other specialized course for secretaries or medical secretaries is usually required. When reviewing job postings, you may find that not all employers are asking for the same education or training. Professional certification and licensing will allow us to know if the occupation is regulated or not, if it's compulsory regulation or voluntary regulation. Regulated occupations. For this example, we look at licensed practical nurse, or RPN, and this is a regulated occupation. So what you'll see, again, are the employment requirements and then the professional regulation and licensing body. So for this, registered practical nurse in Ontario, you have to be regulated, it is compulsory, and you would be regulated under the College of Nurses of Ontario. You can click directly on College of Nurses of Ontario to be linked to their website, and on their website you will see what requirements you must meet in order to be regulated. Most regulation bodies require you to pay an annual fee as well as keep your education and training up to date. The final tab that we look at is skills. This tab allows you to see what the expertise is within this industry. It lists some of the day-to-day duties that most people working in the industry would complete. It also allows you to see the usual skills and knowledge that people use day to day. This can be helpful when looking at areas that you may need to work upon and areas that you are really strong in. It allows us to develop cover letters and resumes using industry wording. In conclusion to labor market research, there are many sites out there that allow you to do that research to make informed decisions. Do keep in mind though that information is only as current as when it was posted. In order to get the most up-to-date information, you may want to consider doing an informational interview with an employer in the industry. Again, we know that labor market research can be confusing, it can be overwhelming. There are a lot of factors to take into consideration when making these decisions. Remember that as your employment counselor, we are here to help. We will work through this information with you to help you come to a decision that you're comfortable moving forward with.
When you're looking for a job or exploring a new career path, it's smart to do informational interviews. Informational interviews are essential to helping you find out more about the industry, the company, or the role you're interested in. They also allow you to determine if both the school and the program have a positive reputation if you're considering a second career. Informational interviews give you exposure, a way to get yourself known in the hidden job market. It's all about relationship building. For example, I had a client interested in retraining as a gas fitter. He conducted 3 informational interviews, and one of the employers he spoke with asked him to follow up with him when he was close to finishing his second career program. My client did just that. He ended up graduating on a Friday and began working for that employer the next week. A few tips on making the most of an informational interview. The first is to prepare and practice. Your goal is to come across in a way that inspires others to help you. So please do your homework, study up on the industry lingo, and be able to talk about the most important trends. Don't waste your expert's time by asking basic questions you can research yourself. The second is to keep your introduction short. Prepare a brief, succinct explanation about yourself that you can recite in 3 minutes max. This is also called an elevator pitch. Essentially, it's here's my background, here's what I'm thinking, and this is where I'd like your feedback. The next point or tip is to think like a journalist. Prepare a list of questions ahead of time. You don't necessarily need to stick to a script, but if you're unfocused and unplanned, you risk offending the person. Ideally, it should be a conversation and not you cross-examining your expert with a rapid fire of questions. If you're considering second career, please refer to the Guide to Completing a Second Career Package for a list of informational interview questions counselors have prepared specifically for this. The last tip is to follow up with gratitude and not demands. Thanking the person for their time by email is a must, but you could also send a handwritten note as it will make you remembered. Whatever you do, don't immediately ask for favors, as this is considered bad manners. Instead, ask for advice on how to position yourself in the market. The idea of doing an informational interview is uncomfortable for many people. My suggestion is to conduct an informational interview with an employer you're somewhat interested in as a practice run. Then when you're talking to the employer you're really interested in, you feel much more confident and comfortable with the process. If you have any questions about informational interviews or how to conduct one, please speak with your employment counselor, as we're happy to help.
We've reached the action planning part of the workshop. Now it's time to set up some goals and actions using what you've learned through the values exercise, career cruising, and how to set up informational interviews. Steps to take when action planning include defining your objectives, clearing your schedule to feel ready for the next steps, setting small, measurable, and attainable steps, identifying resources necessary to accomplish steps, identifying who is responsible for each step, reviewing and updating your progress. In the next slide, I will share some examples of common actions people take after the workshop. Examples of common actions people take after the workshop include creating what's called an elevator pitch. It's a greeting and introduction to use when requesting an informational interview with someone. An action you can take is to Google elevator pitch to learn more and write a rough draft to work on with your employment counselor. The goal is to write a concise paragraph to introduce yourself and briefly highlight your education and some of your skills. It's important to also mention your intention for the informational interview so the recipient understands what you hope to get out of it. Another action is to dive further into career cruising after the workshop and after you've done some research on the matched careers. Then contact your employment counselor to discuss what you've learned. Another action could be to set up informational interviews. Perhaps contact a union if you're interested in retraining in a trade. Contact an employer working in a sector you're interested in. Contact an employee who can share what their job is like, the ups and downs, and how it fared through a financial crisis like a recession. You can contact people for informational interviews through email, phone, or FaceTime. An action some people find helpful is to check the online resources listed on page 9 for further labor market research. You can also set an action to check the audiobook cloud through your public library. A subscription to Audiobook Cloud gives you unlimited remote access, and there are many audiobooks under the category of self-help and education that could help you with your career decision making. It's very important to set dates as deadlines to complete actions. Action planning will help you move forward with your career decision making and stay motivated, engaged, and focused.